everybody, it's Max joining you from my home base because we have a very special Inside LAFC podcast. We have reached the MLS Cup playoffs, and coming up, I will be joined by a select group of national media. You know them, you love them. They will hit you with our LAFC playoff preview and our MLS playoff preview as well. We will have our picks for MLS Cup and who is going to win it all. The MLS Cup playoffs, the best show in town. We are getting ready for it here on Inside LAFC podcast. Rate, review, download, subscribe, tell a friend. The podcast starts right now. Welcome back to the Inside LAFC podcast. As you can see, I'm well accompanied here with our crack MLS Cup playoff panel. We do the introductions. To my right on the screen, there's Marcelo Balboa, three-time World Cup player, Apple TV analyst in Espanol, and also for TUDN. Welcome, Marcelo.
Wow.
We got to turn the mute off there, Marcelo. I don't
Wow.
After that great intro, too.
There we go.
I'm going to say, Marcelo, you looked like you were spitting fire there, too. That sounded like a great intro.
I was ready to go, man. I was saying I was going to start off with my low voice like Mo, and I'm excited to be here. I can't wait for it. You know what I mean?
Well, we appreciate you being true to yourself with the Colorado outdoor look. Excellent. Below him is Tom Bogert, MLS USMNT insider. You know these people. I know you know them, but I'm just doing these introductions for someone who may be tuning in for the first time. MLS USMNT insider for The Athletic. You can hear him on Extra Time and also on Apple TV. Tom is top three Mount Rushmore of mustaches, but so much more. He's where we get our great information. Hello, Tom.
How's it going? It's nice of you to say so much more than mustache, but come on, we all know it's doing a lot of carrying for me.
Dude, branding, man. It's all about it. Thanks for not muting your microphone. Next to Tom below is Maurice Mo Adu, a former U.S. men's national team player, also a former World Cup player, doing great work. I mean, I have 2 pages of where you work, Mo. Do you want me to list it all off?
I got time for all that.
CBS, Paramount, Fox. Did I get it all?
I think that's everything.
Yes, we got some hardworking men here, and they're very busy, so we appreciate their time. So we're going to get in here. We're going to have a nice, healthy conversation about LAFC. We're also going to talk about some playoffs, and ahead we'll give you our MLS Cup picks. So I hope you guys have something in store for that. At least you have some time to think about it. But we're going to begin here with LAFC and Denny Bouanga, who won the Golden Boot. 20 goals. He added one. I spoke to John Thorrington this week, and I go, what do you think about Denny's season and how can he secure it? He goes, I think he's going to add another goal. He did, 20 goals. So I'll start with you, Cello. And we've seen a lot of Golden Boots. This is the third time in 5 years for LAFC. The Golden Boot and 20 goals doesn't tell the whole story of what he has done. But what has impressed you about the season Bouanga has had?
He needs to get kicked harder, man. No one kicks him. What's going on?
Fair point.
Yeah. What happened to
True defender right there.
What happened to those good 2-footed tackles, laying the law down, letting players know that the defender's there to – now, listen, he's had a good year. If you go back and you look at all the games, the opportunities he's missed, he could have been at 30 goals easy this year. So, quick, loves to go one-on-one. Not a lot of players you see in this league going at players one-on-one. When he gets in front of the box, he's not one of those players that's like, okay, let me share the ball. He's a little bit selfish, which is good. That's how you score goals. And listen, and to just be realistic, the only way LA has a good chance of making it to the final, he's got to be on fire for the next 3 to 4 games in order to get them into the final, because Carlo's a little off. Other guys are a little off. So Bouanga, for me, is the key to this group. If he stays in form and he can put the ball in the back of the net, LAFC's got a good chance to make a run.
Tom, I mean, the perception is interesting because with Carlos Vela, but is it safe to say LAFC's success in this playoff really rely on Bouanga continuing to score a lot of goals?
Yeah, more so Bouanga. And I will say, Marcelo, maybe he's not getting 2-footed because people can't catch up to him. This dude is so explosive and dynamic, like you can't even get near him. So I think what I'm most impressed by is that, like, I don't think that finishing is one of his like top 3 qualities, right? Like his pace and dynamism, his one-on-one ability in space and transition or against a set defense, and his ball striking ability. like finishing isn't one of the things he's best at, and he still scored 20 goals in the league and 30 whatever across all competitions. He's been incredible this season. So I wouldn't go as binary as it has to be Bouanga or no one, because I do think Bella's still a big game player. And again, the small sample size, less small when it's the best of 3 series here. Obviously, Bouanga I think is their most important attacking piece, but again, maybe I'm just a sucker. I still look at Carlos Vela and think of him in that same category in a playoff series, in a playoff game. But yeah, like Bouanga's season's just been unreal.
I think he's a joke. The guy is an absolute freak of nature. I mean, yeah, 20 goals. I don't disagree with both of you that he could have had more. But even in saying that, like he went on that little bit of a drought, and that's where I started adjusting my mindset up to. Is he going to win the Golden Boot? I started leaning towards, players like Giakoumakis who play as a traditional number 9. Because in my mind, I'm like, they're going to get more service. They're going to get more opportunities. But his ability to just consistently go from 0 to 100, his acceleration, his constant, desire to take players on, to be 1v1, to be 1v4, to get a strike off with this much of a window to get the shot off against Vancouver, to score his goal. Like, that's the part that intrigues me. And I feel like, Cello, to your point about players kicking him, I think it's hard at times because, one, yeah, he is incredibly quick. He's elusive with the way he changes pace, but also he gets a strike off with such a small window. It's just a quick release. All he gets is that he gets that little small second, 2 second, half a second separation, and he's getting the strike off. So for me, he's a game changer. He's the one. He is the X factor. I think if LAFC is going to make a run to MLS Cup, I agree. I think he's the one it's become his team now.
You know what I like? I'm going to say this really quick. His mentality. And I'll say this because how many players have we seen come back from international duty night before, and they're like, no, I'm going to start off on the bench. This kid has come back from international play and has started games within 24 hours of him landing back in LA.
Less than 24 hours.
Yeah, that mentality to me.
Cyborg.
I wish more players had that mentality of, you know what, I just want to play. I got off the plane. I'm okay. Put me on the field. Let's go. Let's play. I love that.
I'm convinced he's a machine. He can't be a human. It's like this is the busiest. I think this is the busiest season in MLS history in terms of games played for the team. And this dude's not just always out there, but always the end of the game against Vancouver, he's the fastest player on the field still, making the most runs. It's unreal.
He's just never satisfied. I mean, how many hat tricks did he have He scored a hat trick in every competition this year.
4 hat tricks.
It's incredible. When I watch him play, I think the reason why he's so hard to defend is just because his mentality, to your point, Cello, is he's just never satisfied. Yeah. If he scores a goal, he wants 2. If he's on 2, he wants 3. If he's on 3, he wants 4. Right? He wants to just consistently get the ball, go. And in a playoff series, whether it's home or away, if it's a tight game, I'm saying give this guy the rock and let him create something. Because even if it's not him scoring the goal, if it's him taking on a player, if it's him now drawing 2 defenders, well, that opens up space for Carlos. That opens up space for Oliveira. That opens up space for Bogusz to make a run out of midfield. And I think that's where this team becomes incredibly dangerous.
I want to see his numbers. I want to see his GPS numbers.
It's great. This is great for our audience, guys, because they hear us talk about Denny Bouanga, but hear the national media and how they've been impressed is excellent. And one little detail about him that I've heard described, he's like a kid who loves the game. He just, I want to play. It's first and foremost. And you figure most people are like that, but maybe it's not the case with everyone. And as a professional, you got to track a few things, but he still has that jovial quality. LAFC
his athleticism, I'm sorry, I just got to end with that. Watching that, and I'm going to take it even, I'm not going to even assess his athleticism based on his playing. Do you see his celebration after he scored against Vancouver? He's jogging, and then he casually slows down because he's going to do one thing. Then suddenly he just switches. No, I want to do a flip, and from like a standstill, he does a.
That's dangerous.
Come on, man.
I'm not sure if I'm the coach. I want him doing that. No, if it's close to a playoff,
If we continue this conversation any further, we might get him the MVP award. This is excellent, but we have to move on.
It's a good debate.
It is a good debate. I mean, it's people on there about Lucho Acosta, and I voted for Lucho Acosta, full transparency.
I had him this weekend. I'll be honest with you. I had him this weekend, and when him and Almada, when they're both on, I would have to put. I hate to say it, but Bouanga drops to third for me. Those two, when they're on, I'm telling you, I was amazed when you get to see them play in person, what they see compared to everybody else. But 20 goals, it's a lot to say.
Let's talk about the playoff format. My producer, Yuli Roman, saying move along, and we will.
Move.
LAFC Vancouver. This is I don't know if both these teams really wanted to see that. They played each other in the final match of the season. They played each other in CONCACAF Champions League / Cup. This will be, they'll play their 5th time and a 6th time, possibly a 7th time. We talked about Denny Bouanga. I will say this that I think is really important when you look at playoffs and there's a comparison to ice hockey. You need good defending. Marcelo, 100%. Defenses win championships. LAFC's done that very well. We saw Maxime Crépeau make a penalty save, and essentially his woodwork helped him on the second one, but he guessed correctly. That's locked in. They haven't given up a lot of goals. We'll talk about the playoff format here, but obviously you get that home field advantage. It's going to be tough. Vancouver's they've been one of the 4 or 5 teams. I'll start with you, Tom, and then you guys can jump in on the back end. Vancouver's been really impressive. They have a game plan. They have players in each position. By the way, I was watching the game again this morning, uninterrupted. Greg's kid, he has some Tyler Adams in him. It's very nice. I don't know if he's going to play a lot because he's come in to fill in the injury, but they are very tight. We don't give them a lot of respect for this Vancouver team, but how do you see this matchup, Tom?
This is my favorite first-round matchup in the West. Like, I think that these two teams are very fun against each other. I think that decision day game was a lot of fun, again, even without Kubas, even with like you said, seeding was on the line for both teams, but different than a do-or-die type of game. So I'm really excited. Both teams are going to be open. Both teams are going to try to play. The attacking duo of Gold and Brian White has gotten its due towards as the season has went on. It used to be very, very underrated. I love Andres Kubas, their defensive midfielder. Richie Laryea has been really good for them. That's not, a big surprise or anything. But the way that this system is, it really allows him to get forward as much as he possibly can, as much as he possibly wants. So it's a really good fit. And then on the other side, again, like LAFC, this is going to be a game. This is going to be a series, I think, that's dominated by transition. And I think it's going to be end-to-end and a whole lot of fun. So I don't know exactly which way it's going to go. LAFC definitely has the edge. Obviously, they're the better seed. I think that they are the better team. But Vancouver is so good as well. And again, like this is easily the first round matchup in the West. I'm looking forward to.
I look at LAFC love. I'm getting a little nervous here now.
I nod, and I think Tom's spot on with a lot of that. I think just looking at when you play against the same team so many times in a season, and now it starts to throw off like who has the advantage, right? Because early in the season, LAFC CCL they smacked Vancouver home and away 3-0. I think it was in both settings, right? And then you come back to league play, albeit it was a different and maybe not a first choice LAFC team. They lost at home, and so for Vancouver, like although they have to go on the road potentially twice in this series, you have that in your head. Like we've gone there before and had success. You're not worried about who the personnel was that was on the field that day. It's just more so you've been in this building, you've taken what that crowd brings to that atmosphere, and you found a way to win. So. And then just looking at the most recent game, you're at home in Vancouver and you're 2 penalty kicks away or you're 1 penalty kick away from picking up a win there as well. So I think it's a matchup both teams will feel confident in. LAFC, they have the history when it comes to now. They've gotten over that line. They know what it takes to win an MLS Cup. A lot of these players were part of that team. They have a coach in Steve Cherundolo who now knows what it takes to go through a playoff series, although it's different this year, different dynamics and different setup. They know how to weather that storm. They know what it takes to get to that finish line and now walk past it. So I agree. This is going to be probably the most fun matchup in the West for sure, because you have two teams that are going to go for it. You have goal scorers, you have star players, different kind of, I don't want to say tier star players, but different star players in terms of the recognition that they get from a national standpoint. And I think there'll be a chip on Vancouver's shoulder a little bit because of that. Because they maybe don't feel like they get their due in terms of how their team plays, the personnel their team has, and the level of consistency against some good teams they've shown over the course of this season.
I'm just gonna say, you guys said it all. Listen, I think this could be one of the matchups that goes to 3 games, 3 penalty kicks.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, it's that close. The difference is for me is if Ilie Sanchez decides to sit in front of the 2 center backs and just kind of mark that space, or does Ilie step up and help in the midfield where they're going to need the help? Because we've seen them both. When Ilie Sanchez steps in and helps mark, that midfield now is a little different. When you drop off and you let him sit in front of the 2 center backs, the other teams have more room to play. So I think it's going to come down to that midfield role of how they play. I look at it as one team's got star power. the other team believes in family. They believe in themselves. They believe in what the coach is selling them. That mentality that we can beat anybody, almost what Pablo's doing with Real Salt Lake. That's what I see with Vancouver. This is a team that's not relying on 1, 2, 3. This is a group that's going to go out and it's going to defend as a group. It's going to attack as a group. If the ship goes down, they're not going to blame each other. They're just going to take responsibility as a group like we've seen it, and they're going to move on to the next game. So one mistake, one indecision of do I pass it? Do I mark this guy? Do I not mark this guy? Could cost you a game. A set piece could cost you a game. They've got Carlos Vela. They've got Gold. So, you know what I mean? It's that tight of a match that, I look at it with star power and a group that's united and believes in each other. And at the end of the day, I see 3 games, 3 penalty kicks.
How long is
that's part of the new
Kubas
playoff
out?
format, by the way? Yeah,
how long is Kubas out? Because I think that'll be, to your point about Ilie Sanchez, Cello.
Yeah.
I think Kubas for Vancouver. Yeah. I think Berhalter's done I think he's done a good job as his replacement, but I think Kubas is another level, and it gives them a little bit more security, a little bit more control in transition moments, which LAFC thrive on. So when Vancouver, because they're going to get their wing backs forward, Richie Laray on one, like, they're going to get forward, they're going to commit numbers forward because, and we saw that in the last game, but now in those transition moments is where I think if Berhalter's playing, he's got to stand on his head, which I think he's done relatively well. Yeah, I'm excited to be calling that one, man. It's gonna be fun.
That we should mention Keith Costigan and Modu will be on the call for that. So that's part of the reason we had him. We had to get someone who's going to be locked in. He's already doing his research. We're helping him. We're helping him do his research.
This is why I said yes to the call.
You have a work permit.
Let me get prepped.
You have a work permit to go.
You're gonna get your passport stamped.
Man, we got to figure that out. No, that's serious. We got to figure that out.
We were supposed to do the game, but we don't have work permit. So
yeah. That's all I gotta get sorted, man.
I know.
Vancouver's lovely this time of year, just like Colorado. Game 1 is Saturday at BMO Stadium, 8 p.m. meets 5 p.m. local, I should say. Game 2 will be November the 5th, a Sunday at BC Place. And Game 3, which it looks like will be in play here, Thursday, November the 9th, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific. BMO Stadium games available on MLS Season Pass on Apple TV. Maxime Crépeau, former Whitecap. Mark Dos Santos, former assistant, also Whitecap. LAFC have done well there at BC Place this year. They won in CONCACAF Champions League, tied on decision day. Historically, they have not played well. I believe 4 straight losses coming in. So there you have it. I think some of the supporters here are a little nervous, but this is playoffs. We know that the lines are very fine in the positioning. We touched on the playoff format, and we'll talk that now, this new format here. 18 teams. You have a wild card game, which will be played on Wednesday. You have games, if they end tied, as Marcelo touched on, will go directly to penalties, no extra time. You'll get extra time in the following rounds, which are one-off games when you get to the conference semis, conference final, and then MLS Cup. But here we are. This is the best of 3. There are some questions here, Tom. Certainly at the top of the list for me is protecting the higher seeds. Last year, you had the top seeds make MLS Cup, which, you want fun and hijinks in the postseason, but you do want to protect those teams. Are we protecting the higher seeds in your estimation? Again, where we have a clear-cut team at the top in the East. It's a little bit muddier in the West, but are we protecting the higher seeds with this new format?
I think last year more so because that there wasn't the best of 3 in the first round, but the fact that the conference semifinals, conference finals, and MLS Cup, whoever the better seed is hosts, I love that. That's one of my favorite things about the playoff system in MLS, that it's not a neutral field, or it's not, again, in other traditional American sports where it's a best of 5, then a best of 7, where both teams get 3 home games if the series goes that long, and the only real benefit to being the higher seed is you get a game 7 if it gets there. So I really love that in one-off games around here that the regular season matters that way. We'll see how it affects these first-round series. Obviously, it's going to be the first new data points for best of 3 since I don't even know when the last year was that MLS had this as a format. So we'll see exactly how that plays out. But again, I really do love the one-game knockout games where the better team hosts.
There's a big gap there, too. For the international break from the 13th of November. So it's going to be interrupted, which is not ideal, but I think it's good.
Nothing they can do.
Listen, nothing's better than 2021, where Colorado had 23 days off, winning getting the most points in the West. And New
Playing
England
on Thanksgiving.
Revolution, I had 28 days off. So anything's better than that format, because once you're in form and once you're in rhythm as a player, taking 2 weeks off without a competitive game, 3 weeks off without a week off without a competitive game, maybe, but that was too much. So I'm a fan of the 3 games. I think it's great because 2 games, we saw it before in this playoff. One team would sit back and then wait till they went home, and now you've got to come out, you've got to play. I do like when you get to the semifinals and finals of the conference, it's a one-off game, the highest seed. My problem is when 2 teams reach an MLS Cup, they both deserve, they're both of their fans. And if we're a fan-oriented league, both teams should be able to host. Highest seed holds the last game. I'd like to see both teams get that reward for getting to the final for their fans, because this league is nowhere without the fans we have. And when you're able to give a home and an away game in a final like they do in Mexico, I think it celebrates what we all want to celebrate: a game at home, the ability to reach a final, and let the fans enjoy that last shot. But I like the format now. I can't wait to see if it's a positive or a negative thing, because we'll all find out, because we're all going to experience it together. But I like that at least they're experimenting to try to get the best out of teams into the playoffs.
You want a home and home in the final, or you want best of 3?
Home and home.
I don't want that.
Home and home.
On Christmas
I love the one
Day.
game. I love the
People
one
can
game.
set up with their family and watch.
I don't know.
Watch
I like.
MLS
I mean,
2024.
because to me, I love the sentiment of rewarding the fans. Yeah, I hear all that, but it's to me, it's like, well, if you're giving the advantage, if you're trying to reward what you've done in the regular season by giving the seeding in every round up until that point, the higher team has the advantage. So best of 3, you're going to have 2 home games.
But listen,
and the next round is one game.
If we're experimenting, the NBA Finals is best of 7. The World Series of Baseball is best of 7. Everywhere you go. So why not? If you're experimenting, because that's what they're doing right now, why not?
And they're
experiment
Americanizing it too.
Yeah, but what I'm saying though is, but I just don't.
I hear what you're saying.
It's kind of backwards that you would do 1 game here, 1 game, and then the final you're going to give a home and away.
Listen, if you're experimenting, trying to figure out what works for everybody, and if you're going to try it for a year, because MLS has tried a bunch of different things. Am I wrong? We've seen a lot of experimentation going on. Why not try it and see how it works? Yeah, but it's okay. It's okay. I would like to see, if you're going to experiment, I'd like to see that experiment and see how it works out 1 year, just to see.
So it's interesting, and you'll have teams that will have rest, and not everyone will have that gap together, so there won't be that misbalance. But it's very interesting as we look in towards this new format. As a broadcaster, I love it. More games to come.
Yeah.
All right, let's move along here, guys, to the playoff preview, and we kind of touched on it there with the format. Again, the top teams, if they can navigate through, will get a one-off game at the home. And look, part of the format too is rewarding teams for making the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's what you're getting there. Tom, let's look at what we're seeing here in the East and the West. That we have FC Cincinnati with that great season. Orlando finished second. Columbus third. In the East, it really looks like there's a lot of teams that could do it. On the West, St. Louis, their gap shortened to 2 points with Seattle, and then you had LAFC. But looking at this playoff, I mean, maybe a good jumping off point is how many teams could make a run of the 18 that are in there?
Oh, that's a good question. Again, I think that there's more of them in the East, so we'll see how this all shakes out, because I think it's like 5 of the 7 top teams in Supporters Shield were all in the East, and I just think that there's kind of more quality in that conference this year, particularly at the top end. So I don't know what the exact number is, but I'd be like all the top 4 in the East I could see, and then you could talk me into Nashville if they kind of get hot. A Gary Smith masterclass of a lot of penalty shootouts.
Great defensive
but
team.
Just right there. That's 5 teams out in the East right there. So I don't know. I think it's pretty wide open this year.
I think the East is. I think in previous years, like the last few years, it's been the West has had the advantage in terms of the stronger league. But I agree the East this year. Picking a favorite is hard. It's hard to bet against Cincy because of what they've done. But that being said, I'm a big fan of Wilfred Nancy and Columbus, and that series against Atlanta is going to be wild. We were there. What was it? 2 weeks ago now? 3 weeks ago when they played Atlanta, and they smacked Atlanta. Like, they went into Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and it's so funny because me and Keith kept saying on air, like, for as good as this looks, it was only 1-0. We're like, for as good as this looks, Columbus have to find a second goal because the aura of Mercedes-Benz stadiums, for whatever reason, craziness always seems to happen there. So like they got a way to finish off this game because, I mean, it was a masterclass. Tactically, I think Wilfred Nancy is really, really sharp, and that's why I like this matchup because Gonzalo Pineda also is very, very focused on tactics, and they, like to make little small tinkers here and there that play a big role in the way the game shapes out. So I think that's going to be the best. That's the best matchup I'm looking at. I think that one's going to be exciting. I think you're going to see goals as two teams that want to be ball dominant, create overloads, get numbers forward. They both made some big changes this last window, bringing in some important pieces that have really, for Columbus, it's given them a little bit of a boost in terms of Diego Rossi coming in to replace Zelarayan. But more so for Atlanta United, they really needed some change, and they brought in some pieces that have really helped to elevate that team. So that's the series that I'm looking at where I think, winner of this one finds himself in a conference final, potentially MLS Cup.
Oof. I'm going to stick West Coast, and they're struggling this year. We'll leave it at that. I did Atlanta, and Atlanta with Almada out the first game because of the red card. Giacomakis with an ankle injury where he got studded pretty good from Miatska. We did the game this weekend, so I'll be curious to see how he is. Cincinnati, they got caught in transition so many times that, Atlanta could have put 2 or 3 on them in the first half. Man, I don't know. I got to be honest with you. I think there's Orlando. No one wants to talk about Orlando right now, but Orlando's flying. I don't know if it's under the radar because when you're in second place in the East, it's not under radar. But Oscar's got to get to that point. I know.
It's a little bit under the radar,
yeah. But we all know Orlando. We know Oscar. Oscar's got to be able to now find a way to get past that second round, get into a semifinal, get into a final. I think that's what we're waiting for from Orlando. We're waiting for that one moment, that one run that they make. And I think that's what we've been waiting for. But I put them right there, man. I put them right there in the East. I think that could be an interesting Cincinnati, Orlando, Eastern Conference final. Just because of the fact the players they have, the style they play. If you go to Orlando, it could be 90 degrees or it could be 80 degrees, but you're going to get heat there. Can they handle going playing somewhere cold? That's the problem. But the West Coast, I'm just going to leave it open. I think any one of those teams could make a run and go to the final. But the battle's going to be in the East Coast for me. Who's going to go on a run of 3 or 4 games to reach that MLS Cup?
Can I throw in there that before we rule out Philly completely, never say never with Philly, man.
We didn't rule out Philly.
I'm just saying we haven't mentioned them. Is all I'm saying.
Well, because they're MLS Cup finalists. They're not Supporter Shield winners, so we're not supposed to talk about them. We got to put all the pressure on Cincinnati. They're the team that has pressure. St. Louis, are they the best team? They're the best team in the West. They have all the pressure. They've got to find ways to do what LAFC did last year. Take the home game, take the Supporter Shield, and make a run all the way to the final. Can those two teams do it? That's where the pressure is for me.
I agree with that. I was just gonna say I think Philly they might be playing with a new why, right? Like everyone has their own. You have your collective motivation, you have your individual motivations, but like with the ownership group coming out and saying that like Bedoya's not coming back next year, Kai Wagner's not coming back next year. If this holds true and both players are exiting, you could see a group that's now galvanized to say we're going to send them off in the best way. A couple players have already come out on social media, stating why and giving support behind like Bedoya and whatnot. So I just Chell, when you as a group, when you find that one thing, whether it's something that's said in the media, one of us says some dumb shit in the media and you hold that, that's your that's your reason. It's so easy for a group to come together and say, all right, let's just get it done. So
or fall apart.
A couple quick tidbits. Columbus, I really like, but not great away, and that's something they're going to have to face if Orlando and Cincinnati advance. We haven't spoken about Houston, who have been so good defensively, but they finished there fourth. Mm-hmm. Also a very dangerous team. Real quickly, guys, we're going to go through the West. Give me your best Western Conference first-round matchup and a quick explanation why you're looking forward to it.
You
Go on,
I
Mo.
already gave you LAFC Vancouver, so I won't
Yeah, Tom.
repeat myself. I'll lay out.
Well, that's what
Who
I was
else?
going to say, because I'm calling that game. So LAFC Vancouver, baby. There's no better one than that. Come on now.
It has to be the best one. They say you guys.
I don't know. You know what? I could see St. Louis, Kansas City being a good rivalry game. You know what I mean? In that first round.
That'd be fun,
Seattle,
too.
Dallas. I think Seattle, Dallas. Dallas historically has given Seattle some issues in the playoffs. So I think is there a clear-cut favorite? Can you say LA is the clear-cut favorite? No, I think it's a pretty even matchup. I think Seattle and Dallas showed the other day what they can do at home. So I don't know if there's a clear-cut favorite, but I think all three games are going to be very interesting. I think they could be there will be surprises that teams we think are going to win will lose, because it happens in every series. But I'm kind of looking forward to seeing who wins in the wild card game between Kansas and San Jose, to see who St. Louis is matched up against.
Yeah,
St. Louis,
that's
the
a
first playoff game. It's got to be
exactly.
That's got to be a second one now.
big target on their back, and they really sputtered at the end in their last couple games. They rested some starters when they went to Vancouver. Didn't look good against Seattle, and a little deflating. But hey, they're going to have to. That's a big target, and they're going to have to deal with it. But bet against them at your own peril. I don't want to get into that game either. So let's go to the East. I think it's going to be LAFC Vancouver in the West. But what do you see as the best Eastern Conference first round matchup, Tom?
Yeah, the Columbus Atlanta. I know that we've hit on this a few times already, but I'm so excited for that. It's unfortunate that Thiago Almada is going to be suspended for that first game, but I don't care. I think that there's going to be a ton of goals across those potentially 3 games.
I mean, I mentioned Atlanta, Columbus already, but Orlando, I think that game against Nashville is going to be interesting, because
can't wait for the 0-0 and the penalties. Can't wait.
It's going to be a hard watch, but it is going to be interesting.
We did the game when it was one shot on goal, right? Duncan McGuire goal 1-0. But the reason why I bring it up is because Orlando's good on the road, right? And they've now gone to Nashville and got that monkey off their back and figured out how to win there. So that kind of takes away that element. And then Nashville, they've kind of, I don't know, fell into the playoffs, right? Like I think it was 4 of the last 5 games, they were kept scoreless. So they got to find a way. And Hani, I trust. This man is incredible. So I don't doubt that he's going to come back into form come playoff time. So that's why I think that series can be intriguing as well.
I'm going to go with my purple right here. I think the Orlando game in Nashville, because we know how good defensively Nashville is. We know they sit back in that low block. We know they like to hit people on counterattacks and transition, letting Mukhtar find any position they can quickly. And I think the way Oscar plays, pushing numbers forward, it could be an interesting, high-scoring series for me. So I'm interested to see Oscar and the pressure he feels with contracts coming up, being signed, having new contracts. I think that's going to be a very interesting one to me.
Why don't you guys set up your shots better with some jerseys? Come on, Mo and Tom. Thank you very much, Cello. First class, as always.
I tried, man. I have to hide the liquor. So.
Yeah. Now I know when I go visit at the Balboa Ponderosa where I'm going. Okay.
I collect bottles. So a lot of the liquor that I have, full bottles, but I collect bottles. I was in Mexico and I found this new tequila, but it had the number 17 on it, which was my number. So I bought it. So I'm a collector of
course,
bottles.
that's why.
I love that.
Oh, yeah.
It was a number.
Real connoisseur, I see.
I almost had you guys.
The number.
I almost had you fooled.
That's okay.
I like tequila,
guys,
dang it.
We're going to get our playoff pick. Give me your MLS Cup. By the way, I like New England. They feel like a big underdog because of everything they've went through this season. So maybe as a 5 seed, I don't think they're going to win. I'm not picking them. But as that Eastern playoff is going to be interesting because New England will be really geared up, as all the teams are. So let's go. We'll all be wrong, I'm sure, in a few weeks with this. Maybe our MLS Cup will be wrong by Wednesday if we pick an 8 or 9. Tom, give me your MLS Cup final and who will win it?
Cincy over Houston in the final.
Cincy, I like it.
Houston, two
Cincy.
orange teams. Wow.
Houston.
I like it.
Mo, who do you like?
Who do I want to let's let the little the Cinderella story continue on. So St. Louis out of the West. But they fall, yeah.
Wow.
but they fall to Wilfred Nancy's Columbus in the
not
final.
expecting that from you.
God.
Yeah. This is
The
not
Midwest final. Everybody
this
wanted.
is what my
St.
heart
Louis,
wants.
Columbus.
I want to
All
see
right,
that.
so
I want to
you
see
want
that
you
Cinderella
want
story
you want
continue.
St. Louis Columbus.
Yeah.
So
That was
yeah,
fun.
Marcelo, are you going to pick someone from Ohio to win MLS Cup? Because we've got 2 for 2 thus far.
I don't know. I'm sitting there going, we're doing an LAFC podcast. If I don't say LAFC, the fans could really get mad at one of us, right? I think it's hard to repeat in this league. I think we all know that. God, I think you're going to laugh. You're going to laugh. I have to agree with Houston. I have to agree with Houston out of the West. The way
After
they're
you
playing.
badmouth the Dynamo, you circle
No.
back.
I'm an orange guy. I love orange. It's my favorite color. That's why I said 2 orange teams in the
My
final.
favorite color.
And I know you laugh. Orange is. But you know what? Watching them play the other day, they're playing with so much joy right now. And they're in such good form. Ache has got his team moving in the right direction. Carrasquilla's on fire. You know what I mean? When you're looking at that, it's just something about that team that I think can surprise a lot of people. Out of the East.
I'd like East is flip a coin.
I got to go with Orlando.
Take a swig of that 17 tequila and let us know.
I'm going to go with Orlando. Right. I think this could be Oscar's year after so many years of getting close and being there. I think that this could be the year they break through with this team they have and reach the final.
Who'd win? You have Houston winning?
God, I have to stick with my boy Oscar. And say Orlando finally wins it.
Okay, the LAFC fan base, I think the decision day was so good because I think Seattle and LAFC are the 2 best in the West. They'll advance, but Seattle playing at home will move on to take on the Dynamo in the Western Final. Seattle moves on to MLS Cup. They're not. I did their game. Brian Spencer says we're tough to beat, and he's absolutely right, and that's going to benefit them in the playoffs. In the East, I am going with Orlando. I'm going to pick Orlando to win it too over Seattle.
All right.
So we all went with the Eastern Conference against.
Yep.
Read them and weep. I have it documented here. Thank you very much. I had a great time. We learned that Marcelo's favorite color is orange and where he hides the booze. Thank you, Marcelo. Which game are you going to be on?
I have St. Louis and the winner of Kansas City, San Jose.
Check that out on MLS Season Pass, LAFC and Vancouver with Keith and Mo. And Tom will be everywhere as he usually is. This was fantastic. Thank you, guys. Appreciate your time. Enjoy the postseason. It's a fun ride. It always is, guaranteed. Inside LAFC podcast. Rate, review, download, subscribe. Tell a friend. We'll see you in the postseason.